Hello, friends. It's been a long time since we last hung out. My name is Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich, but I'm not. Welcome to another episode of League One on the Rocks. Man, the beautiful, lovely man aside on the other side of the screen from me. That is Brian. You can find him on Twitter at Mediocre Ace. Brian, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good. I'm happy to be back, and I appreciate everybody sticking with us. Personal stuff going on, and that kind of gets in the way of the fun sometimes, but I'm glad that everybody is stuck around and that you've been gracious enough to continue with me on this crazy road that we're on.
Absolutely, man. We love you. We support you. And it is so good to have you back. It is so good to see your face, to hear your voice. This is going to be such a fun evening. Cannot wait to get started.
Yeah, it looks like we've already got Luke Martin in the live chat too, welcoming us back. So thank you,
All
Luke.
right.
It's good to be back.
I forgot to bring that up. I need to bring that up so I can see the live chat and everything.
Well, I mean, you do so much for the show as is. I figure reading the live chat is the least I can do. Smith Video Productions also saying, yo, yo, what is going
Yes.
on? Love it.
Smith Video. That's a new one for us, isn't it?
I believe so, yes.
And if you've been in the live chat in the past and we just forgot, I'm sorry. That's not a purposeful neglection. It's just
It's just I've
it's
forced us to be out of this for too long, okay?
Well, Brian, what are you drinking tonight?
Um, I'm drinking water. It is excruciatingly hot outside. It is excruciatingly muggy outside. And I have a feeling that if I stay out in the sun and drink tonight, I'm not going to make it through work tomorrow and then won't make it to the Union Omaha match on Saturday, which only having one match in this month would be horrible. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that to myself. So I've just got just Hy-Vee spring water. By the way, spring water better than purified water, and I will stand by that.
I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, so I'll let you have that one.
I'm a spring water guy.
Gotcha. I am going to go back to Old Faithful and go with let's get that into focus. There we go.
Yeah,
Glendronach, the 12 year. There we go.
the OG.
Bringing that baby back.
I love it.
There's still some joy left in that bottle. So I'm going to break into this one. It has been a week. I tell you what, it has been a week. Oh my gosh. Um, just crazy stuff happening behind the scenes with player departures, player signings, production things, just crazy stuff happening. So I think I may not do a full all nighter tonight, but it's going to be darn close. So that'll be the second of this week, just this work week alone. So um,
Man.
yeah, it has been a week, so that's why I'm diving into the scotch tonight.
Well, I mean, it would
And
be. It's cause to celebrate. I mean, Tormenta just sold a player for the highest amount ever in League One
yeah,
history. So,
yeah,
I mean, cause to celebrate, especially working for the club.
yeah. Cheers to you, Nikakoto. I'm gonna keep it classy. I'm gonna go in a coffee mug tonight for the
Heck yeah.
scotch. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, I don't even know where you want to. Do you want to start with the Union Omaha fan forum last night?
Yeah, I can speak about that a little bit. Anybody who wasn't at the event or did not catch some of my less than stellar live tweeting, I'll be honest. It is. I found out it's very difficult to live tweet an event off of my phone because I can type significantly faster than I can type on my phone with a keyboard. So I'm planning on doing more in the future. So I will be getting a netbook so I can actually do it correctly for everybody. But yeah, the fan forum last night was really good. It's good to see Gary, Marty, and Dom all take time out of their day to kind of address the as they pointed out multiple times last night, the diehard fans that were there, a lot of good information in it. I don't know how much of it they really want shared out, but some of the highlights, I mean, anything that I put on Twitter are going to be things that I was able to share, but highlights, Omaha wants more people, obviously. I think that's everybody in the league can say that, right? The surprising one for me, the biggest surprise, was the match in October against Spokane, the noon kickoff match, has already sold 3,500 tickets just to school groups. So Omaha is trying to set a League One record of 6,000 fans at that match. So, I mean, you get 3,500 as of right now. School's not even in session in Nebraska yet. So, I think they're definitely well on to that goal. And it'd be cool to see for sure. Other than that, I mean, I don't know if they want me to say anything about this or not, but I'm going to anyway. They talked a lot about the friendly with Bellevue University and hinted at still working towards a friendly with another team. They said from Mexico, from Central Mexico. So be on the lookout for that if you're a Union Omaha fan. The one that they did have, funnily enough, was supposed to be last night when we had the midseason review for the team that they were supposed to play from Mexico as well, but fell through, but they are still working on it. So maybe Omaha fans get a magical 17th game in their season ticket package. One can only hope.
There was we can probably speak more about this one off camera, but there were rumors of another friendly that was in the works. But that one obviously fell through. So I mean, just the news of that one alone is exciting.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I can probably talk about it. I mean, I think Luke was live streaming it yesterday, the former president of Parliament. So I think he wouldn't have said it if he didn't want it out in the ether. But yeah, West Ham was one of the big ones that they were talking to, just couldn't make it work with the time frames. So that would have been a huge get. It's good to know that they are reaching out to these teams to try to make that happen. And I'm sure other teams around the league are still doing it if they haven't already. So it's a process, man. I mean, the league is still relatively young, 6 years now. So there's still plenty of time to get those going. And the fact that a few teams have already hosted Liga MX sides just kind of shows that it's starting to be taken more seriously. It just needs to line up. And unfortunately for Omaha, sharing a stadium, it makes that rather difficult. So I know they spoke on that last night as well. So they're aware of the issues with everything, but they don't want the new stadium to take away from these last 2 years that they're going to be at Warner Park. I personally foresee it being more than 2 years. I think they will still be there in the 26 season. But the goal is to get out of there for the 26 season. So we'll see how it goes. But also very good that they're trying. And again, just big props to Gary, Marty, and Dom for putting that together last night and having us fans come out and hang out and be able to ask questions and talk for a while.
so did they speak a whole lot on when they'll be done with the stadium?
No, nope.
Okay.
They didn't even really speak too much on the stadium other than everything we're already aware of.
Gotcha.
Just that they have their architecture firms and their builders and stuff ready to go. Still no general contractor, still nobody like that. I was going to ask the question if the local electrical union was going to be involved in that and what shop it was going to be, so I could start putting my feelers in there, but
I was just about to say, well, they already know who their head electrician is.
mm, yeah, that's a very big project with very tight deadlines, and I don't think they'd put me in charge of something I am that passionate, invested in making sure it gets done, because uh, I would not ever work for free, but I could be persuaded to put in extra time
Yeah.
and overtime on that job for sure.
Yep.
Hell, I'd
All
even
right.
help out
So,
with everything else: framing, drywalling, whatever they need.
yeah, I'm sure you do a great job of it too.
And I think I know a few people in the fandom that would volunteer their services as well. So
Uh-huh.
they might need to tap into that resource.
I don't even know where we should go next. I mean, we're going straight off the cuff here, but I mean,
Yeah, if you guys got questions in the live chat too, we're midway through the season.
yeah,
Whatever you guys want to know, it's pretty open forum tonight. So
we just finished with round 6 of Jägermeister Cup action, and we've already had 4 teams eliminated after round 6. What are your opinions on the Jägermeister Cup thus far?
um, there they talked about it last night at the fan forum as well, and I like the Jaeger Cup. I feel like anytime I talk to people about it, I'm in the minority because I like it. I mean, I think there's things about it that I don't like. Sure, I think it could be marketed outside of the matches themselves a little bit better as far as the team's marketing, that it's a Jaeger match and what that means and stuff like that. But I think on the whole, the soccer's been good. The top 3 teams in goal differential are Northern Colorado, Omaha, and Greenville, I believe. And it's like 18, 12, and 9 goals. So, I mean,
Yeah,
there's goals being scored in this, which is exactly what they wanted. So, I think the groups have been somewhat competitive for the most part. Um, Really, I don't know what else you can kind of ask for from this tournament.
I think Jaeger Cup has been a profound success. I mean, we want to talk about how this is going to add some spice to League One. Not only has it enabled us to have a balanced schedule in our regular season, but if you start looking at the results of the Jaeger Cup, look how many draws there have been in the Jaeger Cup. And that goes into the spirit of the whole cup, because now you go straight to PKs, and that adds a whole nother element of chaos. Who feels good about going into PKs? Who's like, yes, all right, excited for PKs? Everyone is like, oh my God, I hate PKs. It's an anxiety attack. It's gonna give you anxiety.
Hey, man, I don't know. I think Omaha with Wallace Lapsley in goal feels pretty damn good about their chances.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you guys would.
That dude can save some goals in a shootout.
Yeah. I mean, look at the West group, the one with Union Omaha, Northern Colorado, Central Valley Fuego, Spokane Velocity. 2 draws, 2 draws, 4 draws, 2 draws. You look at the only group, the Central group is the only one where 3 of the 4 teams have had 1 draw. Forward Madison still has not had a single draw in the Jaeger Cup. When you look at the East group, 2 draws, 4 draws, 2 draws, 3 draws. That's so much chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. And the amount of money that Jaeger is investing into the cup, the amount of promotional items that are being sent to the clubs that they can give out to fans,
So
the
cool.
amount of money that clubs can win. I mean, it's great. I
Mm-hmm.
I, I think the Jaeger Cup has been a success for League One from a business perspective and from a competitive perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. It it's been fun so far, my opinion, and I mean, I can understand people's apprehension with another tournament in a season. And I know that there were some teams, Omaha is one of them, that did not even want the Jaeger the Jaeger Cup. That was said last night as well. But uh, I mean, you're still getting the same amount of matches that you would have last season. And as you said earlier, Rich, now we have a balanced schedule in the league, which competitively is what you want to ensure fair play, or takes out the conversation of somebody's schedule being easier for the sake of it being easier. So I like it. I enjoy it. I think the promotions have been great. I think the marketing strategy that the USL as a whole has taken on it has really, really looked good. And just the branding of it as well. I think the USL knocked it out of the park with this one, and I'm super excited to see where it goes from here a year from now. And I have a feeling people's tunes are going to change quite a bit when we get down to the final 4 teams as well. I think once the knockout stage hits, people are going to feel a whole lot differently if their team's in it.
Did you say Union Omaha did not want the Jägermeister Cup?
That's what was said yesterday.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that may have been certain people in the front office for Union Omaha not wanting it, but the way it was said yesterday made it seem like they did not want to play in an in-season tournament. Wow. And I know CJ's in the chat, and I know she was there yesterday, so if I'm getting any of this wrong, CJ, please correct me. I was also trying to live tweet and do all that, keep up with what was going on with, we will get to this later, the Northern Colorado situation. It's rumored. I mean, we may or may not get to it, but there are rumors out there. Who knows? There's been no insider sources that have said anything about that, and nobody really knows at this point. So yeah, and CJ in the live chat saying that she was under the same understanding, that it seemed like Union Omaha was one of the teams that did not want it.
Man, I didn't. Huh.
So, I mean, it is what it is. Omaha's still playing in it, obviously. Right now, they're in the 4th spot with goals scored. So, for a front office that didn't want it, they seem to want it enough to be in the 4th spot.
Yep. And the only matches that Omaha has next are Fuego and Madison.
2 deceptively tough ones. Well, Madison's not really a deceptively tough match, but Fuego, deceptively tough.
Do you think that they'll actually come to play for that one, though? They've already been eliminated. They have a very distant outside chance of winning the goal scored wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's essentially nothing for them to play for. Do you really think they're going to come to play in that match?
This kind of goes with CJ asking, what do you think of that Madison Fuego replay match? Fuego looked like they came to play at least in that one as well. They did score down a man, so they ended up losing the match 2-1. But those are those kind of stepping stone moments that when you have a team that is not very good, and a first-year head coach, you have to take things that you can build on as building blocks for the seasons ahead. And honestly, if you go into a match against a team that right now is sitting top of the regular league standings, they're sitting in 4th place in the Jaeger Cup standings, that's a big momentum building win. And if you can put together a full 90 minutes against a very good team and come out with a result, even if it doesn't mean anything at the moment, those things add up, and they build momentum and they build camaraderie and they build kind of a coaching resume as well. So I think there's still plenty to play for if you're Fuego in the Jaeger Cup. I think there's plenty to play for if you're Fuego in the league standings as well. And plus, especially going up against one of the perennial powerhouses of the league, that feels good for the players to come out and get that win too. So, and especially for the fans. I mean, the fans, Lord knows that the people who come out and sit in 100-degree weather in Central California every single week and watch their team perform like they have so far, if they continue to come out, they deserve to be rewarded with something, I think. So there's also that.
So there's a tight race in the West because the two remaining matches for Hailstorm are Spokane on the road and then Fuego on the road. They have 5 points on Union Omaha. So even, I mean, they win one match and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
If they go to PKs and they win that, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for me, do you think that Hailstorm is gonna take this group, or I guess okay? So do you think Hailstorm is gonna win the group? Also, do you think the wild card is gonna come out of the West?
Both of those, yes.
Gotcha.
I think, I mean, Omaha has a 3-goal lead as far as the wild card, I believe, right now, if I remember right. And I saw these
Yep.
yesterday. So
Yeah.
a 3-goal lead, and it is Greenville, isn't it, with 9 underneath them?
Yeah. But they're leading the group, so then you would drop down to 8 goals for the next
Oh,
one down.
okay. Well, so there's that, and in the outside chance that Northern Colorado can't get 2 points out of their next 2 matches. Um, I mean, they're sitting on 18 goals right now. That's, if the next closest is Omaha with 12, that's a 6-goal lead with 2 matches left. That's hard to beat. So, um, yeah, I think honestly, I think both teams that there will be 2 teams out of the West Division that make it into the Final Four of the Jaeger Cup. Yes.
So then, looking at the Central group, Madison, Lexington, and One Knox are separated by 1 point
That's a
and
good one.
only separated by 3 goals. Who's coming out of that group?
I really have to I have to kind of believe in Madison in it. Um, but yeah,
And
Madison, I think, is my front runner there. But also, they also have the regular league to look at. I mean, they're sitting tied on points with Omaha and Greenville right now, so they still have the regular season to play for as well. Maybe it is an instant, a case where they want to use the Jaeger Cup as experience building or to get healthy. It doesn't seem that way, but there may come a point, because these matches are a little bit more spread out now, that they say, I want to focus on the league, and maybe they do drop out of that.
so let's look at that point then. You can get first place in the league and win a shield,
Mm-hmm.
or you can better your chances at winning the Jaeger Cup and actually win some money. But at the same time, if you win the shield, you get obviously a more favorable matchup in the first round of the playoffs because you don't get a bye
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Right.
So what do you take? Are you going to go for the money, or are you going to go for the shiny object as well as the easier first round draw?
If I'm forward Madison, I'd probably go for the shiny object and the better first round draw, because I think Madison is, I would have to assume that they're one of the teams in this league that are pretty highly profitable. I mean, you just look at their promotions, and you have to know that if they're not making some money, they're at least breaking even with those promotions. Otherwise, they wouldn't continue to do them as many times as they do, and with as much flair and as many items to give away as part of those packages. I don't think it would be I don't think it'd be financially viable if they weren't making at least in the green with their operations at this point. So would the extra money be nice? Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, everybody would take extra money, right? If given the opportunity, everybody would take extra money, even if you had it. But I think there's
Did you just
also,
suddenly turn into Don Garber?
I don't know. I don't think so. Uh, no, no, I still think ProRel is a great idea. So I think we're all right. And I don't want to kill off smaller leagues and smaller division teams. So I think Madison probably also wants to kind of break the stigma that they have that they can't get the job done in the regular season or the playoffs. I know people make jokes about it a lot, but I mean it's not for lack of reason. I think there's also that you need to look forward to. And I think Madison has a very good team this year. I think they have a chance to make a deep playoff run. And obviously, they are good enough to contend for the number one spot in the league because they're doing it right now. So it's really what do you go for? Unless they've got their eye on a player that extra money would go right to pick up that missing piece that they need to be completely dominant. I don't know. So too many variables for me to speak on it. But me personally, yeah, I want the big shiny shield in the first round.
Okay. So far coming out of the Jaeger groups, we have Northern Colorado, Union Omaha taking the wild card. We
Yep.
have Ford Madison winning the Central. Now let's look at the East because this is where it gets really interesting. You have Greenville in first with 12 points. You have Charlotte with 8. Both of them have 2 matches remaining. And who are those 2 matches? Against each other, home and away.
Of course.
So if Charlotte wins both of
Sorry,
those
give me 1 second.
matches, if Charlotte wins both of those matches, they will get to 14 points, overtake Greenville to
Hello.
win the group.
Hi, baby.
On the flip side,
What are you
all
doing?
Greenville has to do is win, even
Going to
draw.
bed.
Uh,
Hi, buddy. Okay, honey.
I mean,
Is that
let's
you?
see.
I can't
Yeah,
see.
if they
You look like
draw
your
one of
brother in
these
the dark.
matches and even losing the PK, that would put
You're
them.
goofy.
Well, no, because that could
Because I can't see
Greenville would
in the
have
dark.
to tie and win the PKs to move on to the next round. So they just need 2 points in order to get out of that one. So
Nothing. I'm
suddenly you're
doing a
looking at
podcast, but
Greenville
I
coming
stopped
out of
to
the
talk
East.
to you.
You have Madison coming out of the Central. You have Northern Colorado and Union Omaha coming out of the
No,
West.
it's fine.
And then from
I'm sorry I
there,
wasn't able to pick you up.
what did they
Stinky
say that we were
work.
going to do for
They
assigning? Obviously,
needed
the
me to
wild
do
card
stuff
would
at
get the
work.
4 seed, but then
But I'm gonna pick you guys up tomorrow.
the seeding. Trying to look at what the seeding was. Whether it was based on points or if it was based on goals scored. But there's some interesting
Oh,
matchups
yeah.
coming out of that alone. I mean, you have
Oh, your tooth was hurting.
the top 3 teams in the regular season: Union Omaha,
I will
Greenville,
get you that dentist
and
appointment
Ford
made, okay?
Madison,
And we'll get it
and
taken
then you
care of,
have Northern
okay?
Colorado. So no matter what,
Okay.
one of those or 2 of the top 3 teams are going to face off in the Jägermeister Cup, the first round of
I
those
love you.
playoffs. That makes things super interesting.
Oh, we'll do it right now. Ducky, ducky, ducky.
And then when you start looking over at the regular season, you have Union Omaha in first place, Union Omaha, Greenville, and Forward Madison all tied for first place on points with 22. But with Union Omaha and Greenville with league wins, so that's some interesting stuff there too. And then looking ahead to this week's matches, we just had one last night. Obviously, we spoke on that just a bit and talked about Forward Madison hosting Central Valley Fuego. That one ended with a 2-1 victory for Forward Madison, with Devin Boyce getting the late winner in that match. I think that was in like the 70th minute or something like that. And as Brian said, I mean, Fuego had to go down 2 people in the second half, with a soft red going to Cromwell in the 78th, and then another soft red going to Clayton Tor in extra time of second half. But by that time, the damage had already been done, with Forward Madison scoring that second goal in the 66th minute. So by that time, they essentially had their victory in place. But things are going to get interesting as we start to look at the playoff scenarios for Jägermeister. I was just breaking down the possibilities for Greenville and Charlotte heading into that scenario, and then talking about how the top 3 teams from the regular season are going to be moving into, or could very easily move into, the playoffs for Jägermeister, with 2 of them facing off in the first round. Yeah.
That's See, this is the kind of stuff that this tournament was meant for, honestly. So we're getting exactly what was expected and wanted. So, and
Yeah.
apparently I was not muted. I apologize to everybody. Rich, I think I muted myself to you, but not on YouTube. So
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything, so I was just talking.
I was probably talking over you, and then everybody heard me talking to my kids over FaceTime. So
Gotcha.
So that's what it was. My apologies. It's been a while. Okay, I'm trying.
Soup Loop's coming in saying, do you think that if we get 20 teams next year or the year after, that we would have room for the cup? That would be 38 regular season games. This is an interesting question, and I love it, because Players Association at this moment in time says players cannot play above 50 matches. So whatever arrangement we would have, it would max out. You would have to take into effect the regular season plus playoffs. You'd have to take into account US Open Cup. If I don't want to spread any rumors or speculation or anything, if USL continues to allow teams to compete in the Open Cup,
Right.
that is, I'm not suggesting anything. I have no knowledge on that, so I'm just saying that is an additional factor. Then you can start to look at Jägermeister Cup and how many matches that would afford us, not only group stage but also playoffs. So at that point, we would not be able to exceed 50 matches for these players.
Yeah.
That's a fine balance to find right there. And not to quote the evil overlords, but I mean, you have to consider schedule congestion at some point.
Yeah, who's Don Garber now?
I know, it's so bad. I can feel it coursing through my veins, and I feel really bad. Ugh, I feel gross.
Yeah, it does feel gross to say that. I've done it on the podcast before. Yeah, I mean, schedule congestion is obviously an issue. But I think everybody can kind of see the writing on the wall with the Open Cup, as far as if MLS is going to pull all of their teams like they plan to next season, planned to this season and probably will next season. I, I don't know a whole lot of people that, or a whole lot of leagues that are going to be like, oh, let's go play the same caliber competition we're playing now, just in a different tournament, and then have to travel from, in this year's Union Omaha's case, California to Maine in less than a week. So, um, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot that is this offseason is going to be very interesting as far as tournaments and how things are structured, especially in the league. So it's definitely something that is going to keep us talking as the season goes. I, for one, feel like if you do get 20 teams next year, I don't think we'll hit 20 next year in League One. Perhaps the year after, but then you also have to think too. There are a few teams in League One that have looked at going up to championship, and again, going back to yesterday's Union Omaha is going to be in championship in 26. There was a question kind of came up to the owner Gary Green about it, and he was very blunt that Omaha will be in the championship in 2026. That is an option that they are going to exercise, that they have built in. So, I mean, that
So
also brings up the question: how many other teams in the league have that option built into their contracts with the league? You have to think if Omaha has one, then a couple other teams probably have that option too. And I mean, it's not unheard of and uncommon. We saw it last season with NCFC. NCFC obviously had that built into their contract with League One, and they exercised their option to move back up. So I don't think I'm breaking any, like, I thought about it for a second and get scared myself, thought I was like breaking something that he wasn't supposed to say out, but it's already been done in the league before. So
let's expand on that then. If NCFC was given that option, you would think Charlotte would have that option as well.
you would,
And going back to when you said Greenville, if we're talking about founders of the League One, then you would have to start looking at some of the other founders in the league.
mm-hmm,
Um, so, I mean, that could easily build a case for Richmond getting one of those options, Tormenta getting one of those options, um, Chattanooga getting one of those options.
mm-hmm,
So, I mean, that's a lot of teams that have the option to go to championship whenever they want to.
mm-hmm. And you have the rumors with Lexington as well.
Yep, we have rumors coming out of Lexington. Um, so, I mean, man, that especially with the amount of interest that is being shown toward League One.
Mm-hmm,
Um, this is pure speculation, but it wouldn't surprise me if teams don't want to get lost in relevance and want to move up to championship to, spice things up, get some news, get some attention, and compete at a higher level.
mm-hmm. I mean, this is where that promotion and relegation argument comes in. There's no need for built-in contract negotiations and stuff like that if you have an open system where teams can move up and down freely based on performance. So I think
Which also, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think the writing is literally on the wall that promotion and relegation is coming to the USL. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, I fully believe USL will have pro rel in the coming years. I don't have any inside knowledge on that. But it's just the faith that I have, the momentum that it's gaining in USL. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's
Agree.
a small population, as you discovered last night at um, the fan forum, where Gary Green said there's a small population of clubs that are voting against pro rel, and they happen to be the lower seeded teams in championship. So the pressure's on them. You obviously have every League One club that is voting in favor of it, and you
Mm-hmm.
have the higher seeded teams in championship that are also in favor of it.
Yep.
But now that you mentioned Super League, that brings in another aspect of this whole debate. because even with teams that are wanting to be Super League versus W League, there are stipulations you have to meet in order to be considered a Division One women's team. Those same sort of stipulations apply in the men's realm. There are different numbers that you have to meet for Division One, two, and three, but there would you would think that there may have to be some conversations within the federation to change those numbers so that pro rel in USL can actually happen.
Mhm.
Because if you have teams that are Division Three that suddenly qualify for promotion, but don't meet those stipulations for Division Two, now they're handcuffed to League One, which isn't the worst thing in the world because I mean, obviously you and I love League One.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if they have higher aspirations and they have shown the ability to prove themselves and the capability to compete at a higher level, but they're suddenly not afforded that ability to because of their club situation, that just feels dirty.
It does. And I mean, we've honestly in our shows, especially off-season shows, we have talked promotion and relegation to death. So I'm sure if you go back in our archives, you can find our like promotion relegation shows. But I just think there's so many things that need to be done in this sport that's still relatively young in the United States. Like, yes, I mean the Open Cup has been around for 100 plus years, but major professional soccer has only been played in the U.S. on a massive scale since '96, really, with
The
the
modern
MLS,
era.
the modern era of it. Correct. But we're in the modern era. I mean, this is
Yeah.
we can't go back and look at teams that have 200 years of history in Europe and use that as your barometer for anything because it is two completely different things. They're two completely different cultures. They're two completely different ways of watching sports. They're not the same at all. So um, that's one thing that I think really needs to get pushed out of the this American version of soccer. I think we need to stop looking at different countries that have different cultures and saying this is the only way that this can work. This is the only way that this should work, and we need to kind of look at this is how America does soccer, this is how Europe does soccer, what overlaps, what doesn't, and where do the gears mesh together. Because I know that's kind of countering the promotion and relegation argument a little bit, but I think the United States sporting merit plays a big deal with sports in general. I mean, we've kind of seen it grow a little bit with American football. You have teams that played at the FCS level that dominated and have moved up to the FBS level. They haven't always been winners. They haven't always been great, but they've made the jump and they're surviving. So, I mean, and when you get the biggest sport in the United States doing something like that, it's not true promotion and relegation, but it is close enough that you can use it and show that it works. So, I mean, there's so much that we still have to do as a society to make soccer really catch on and work. It's moving in that direction. Obviously, the sport's becoming more and more popular, and excitingly, especially the women's side of this sport is blowing up at a rate that is far surpassing the men's soccer at this point, with just the rate of interest over the small amount of time that it's been going on.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so as we attempt to close the door on the Jägermeister Cup discussion, uh, we were talking about Greenville and Charlotte out of the East with 2 future matchups.
Hmm.
Real quick, who do you think is going to win between those? And then who do you think is going to win the Jaeger Cup?
Oh. Mm. So this group is where it gets super tricky because Greenville and Charlotte are both solid playoff contenders at this point
Hmm.
in the regular season. So
Hmm.
you really have to wonder which of those two is going to prioritize regular season over Jaeger Cup, and that's really what it comes down to with this. But I don't think, just knowing what we know about both of these teams, I think they're both going to prioritize both of them. It's just going to be who blinks first.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good take.
And for me, I feel like Charlotte is good enough to beat Greenville. I think they can, but I think Greenville is just too good. They're one of those teams that are a perennial powerhouse in the league. They're kind of proving that again this season. I think Greenville takes it in the Jaeger, in this group of the Jaeger. And as far as who wins it,
You think Charlotte's going to win the East?
no, Greenville. Greenville's going to
Oh,
win the
great.
East.
Okay. Greenville. That's why I
Um,
was making that face. I was thinking that they would have to win both those matches.
I I mean Charlotte can do it. I mean, I don't think anybody last season looked at Charlotte as a finals contender.
Yeah.
And they made it.
They did.
So I mean, they've done it before. They can. I don't think they will this year. But I also said that last year. So if you're a Charlotte fan, don't come at me later for saying that you guys aren't going to do it, because I know you can, and I know you did last year, and I know who you beat to get there. So preemptive strike on that, I'm already aware. And man, I really feel like NOCO has figured out this this tournament, this in-season tournament. I think they play very, very well in the tournament. Not so much in the league, but they figured out the tournament. And you know what? If you can get your guys up for one-off matches, which is all this tournament really is at this point, you're going to be good, and you can roll the dice and make things happen. So if I had to place my bets on anybody right now winning the Jaeger Cup, for me, it's Northern Colorado.
That's actually not a really bad take.
For once.
It's because like we said, the other clubs that are going to make up those 4 teams are the top 3 in the regular season.
Yeah.
They have to find that balance to play between both of
Mm-hmm.
those. Northern Colorado, yeah, I mean, they're sitting, I mean, at 12 points, 1 point out of the current playoff line, but they can still battle themselves in. I mean, they have 1 game in hand on Chattanooga, so they can still find themselves above Chattanooga. But Northern Colorado can go to these Jägermeister matches and think, no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we lose, oh fine, all right, we can go back to the regular season. But the other teams are like, well, we really want to win the Jaeger Cup, but at the same time, we really want to win the regular season, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
Northern Colorado, I think I don't blame you for picking Hailstorm. I like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, them handily beating Omaha this last week maybe had just a little bit to do with that as well. Um, yeah,
I will say
they
this though.
looked good.
Uh well, I can't really because I don't think Charlotte's gonna make it past, and I don't think they're gonna win the East group. So the 4 teams that would make the playoffs, at that point, each of them, 3 of the 4 would have 2 draws in the Jägermeister Cup. Ford Madison has not had a draw yet. So, okay, so that's a talking point right there. If they haven't had a draw, they haven't had to do PKs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a disadvantage for Ford Madison?
I mean, with the caliber of forwards that they have, no pun intended, with forward Madison, um, I don't think they're that. I don't think they're that scared of it. I think they're. I mean, PKs favor the kicker 80% of the time. So, um, really, it comes down more to luck than it does anything else. And I think that there's enough players on forward Madison's team that have been around long enough that PKs is just a training ground move for them. It's something they do at the end of training every day. They aren't going to see it any differently. And honestly, with them being as high in the league as they are, it's just like you said, it's not really a whole lot of pressure. If you don't lose the Jaeger, you're still in the running for the regular season. So you could also go into it thinking, I'm going to play however I want to play, and we're going to throw all caution to the wind and see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So let's start transitioning over to the regular season, where some things are the same, but some things are definitely not the same. We've been talking about Northern Colorado excelling in their group. They find themselves at 12 points, 1 point out of the playoffs.
Mm.
You also have Lexington, who is still alive in the Central group, only behind Ford Madison by 1 point. But when you look at the regular season, they have 6 points.
Yeah.
So there are some interesting storylines when you look at the Jägermeister and then start looking at the regular season. Why do you think those two clubs found success in the Jägermeister Cup but haven't found it in regular season?
I think it partially has to do with rotation. I think a lot of teams rotate for the Jaeger Cup. Um, a lot of teams probably experiment with some different play styles and not even formations, but just the way that they move the ball. They move the ball differently than they do in the actual league. So I think that has a big thing to do with it. But I also think it's a different animal. It's a different feeling when you're in the Jaeger Cup. It's easier to see the light at the end of the tunnel and what you're working for. I feel like um, in the Jaeger Cup because it's shorter. You have less opportunities to make a name for yourself, and that goes a long way too. We have young players in this tournament, that have stepped up, and there have been some players in the league that just haven't done what most people thought they would at the beginning of the season. And I mean, it's funny to look back now, and this Lexington team was like, with their big signings, their splash signings were put up as this team's winning the league. This team is too good. There's no way they don't win the league. I heard that from a lot of people. I didn't buy into it. I thought they were going to be significantly better than they are, though. So, um, it. I mean, I think I said it at the beginning of the season. You don't win matches by spending the most money, and I think this is the prime example of that. Granted, I think there has been some bad breaks for Lexington. I think they've had some pretty bad luck, which Lord love them, man. They had that problem last year. They got to do something. Somebody's got to change out their boots or something because it's not great. But I really don't know what the problem with Lexington is. It's the same thing that we had last season. They have some stretches that are good, but most of their stretches are bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was definitely one of those people who was uh, touting Lexington as this team that was going to be virtually unbeatable this season. We have not seen that. They are. Um, it's a roster that's made up of a lot of big names. certainly achieved a lot of things on an individual basis. It's just trying to put those pieces together.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, it's super unfortunate because I mean, we're looking at an exciting League One season in a different fashion than
Hmm.
what we were certainly anticipating. Um, but I think there were a number of people out there who were secretly looking forward to seeing Lexington, throw some chaos into League One this season.
Yep.
Um, we aren't seeing that right now, but you never know. There's always time for a second half surge in the regular season, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we really have to kind of put it into perspective too. I mean, yes, you have this three-way, potentially four-way, but right now three-way battle at the top, for first place. You got three teams sitting on 22 points, and then Charlotte close behind with 20, Knox with 19, Tormenta with 15, Spokane with 14, and Chattanooga with 13. But then you look at the next two, Northern Colorado and the Richmond Kickers both sitting on 12. So this is that kind of point where we really see the reasoning behind expanding the playoffs to 8 teams. I think when it initially came out that they were going to expand the playoff to 8 teams, I was not a big fan of it. I thought 6 teams is enough. Why are we rewarding an extra couple teams when it's not going to be that close? And I was wrong. I mean, and I should have known, because if you look at the point difference between 6 through 10 any other season, it's been close too. So um, I think they really figured out the league really figured out that this was probably the best spot moving forward. And I think it's going to be super interesting when we get down the line. I think 1, 2, 3, and 4 will probably all sort themselves out. I have a suspicion it's going to be the top 4 teams that are there now are going to be the same top 4 teams at the end of the season, and the order may change and it may not change. I personally hope it does not change, at least at number 1. But um, I think at this point it's safe to say that those 4 teams are probably the best 4 teams in the league right now. Um, and then I think you go 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10. You can probably interchange a lot of those. And One Knox, maybe not so much. I think One Knox is probably still going to be pretty solid for the rest of the season and probably finish about where they're at now. But the rest of those teams, 6 through 10, are within 3 points of each other. So there's a whole lot of stuff that still needs to be decided as the season goes on. And we really need to get this match played imbalance figured out quickly, because seeing the rest of the league at double digits and then Spokane sitting on 9 is frustrating me. So
Yeah.
it's tough when you have Tormenta, who's played 13 matches, and right underneath them is Spokane with 9 matches.
Yep.
I mean, a 4-match difference, that's too much. I can see 1 or 2 maybe, but 4 matches is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to your point on One Knox is one of those teams who has been like Charlotte in recent years, where they're quiet, they're consistent, and you always seem to overlook them. Um, I will say this though, One Knox came out of the gate uh, just on a tear. Like they won their first 4 matches.
Yeah, swinging.
You look at the second half of their season, they still have to play Greenville on the road. They still uh, play Charlotte at home. They still go to on the road to Omaha. They still have to play both matches against Forward Madison.
Oof.
So this is a team that has to play a lot of matches against the top of the table. So that's when they're really going to show their mettle. They've played a lot of their matches against teams below them. They have not played nearly as many against the teams above them. Now, granted, you also have to think like they only have 4 teams above them, but at the same time,
Sure.
they still have to play 2 matches against Ford Madison,
Hmm.
another one against Charlotte, another one against Greenville, and another one against Omaha. I mean, that's a lot of matches against the top 4 teams.
Hmm.
And so this is when it's going to get really interesting for One Knox because we're going to see who One Knox truly is.
Yeah. That's a potential 15-point swing one way or the other.
Mhm.
That in with how close this table is going to be fighting for playoff spots, 15 points is a lot of points.
Yeah. It's one thing if you're beating the teams you're supposed to,
Hmm.
but if you are having trouble getting results against the teams that you're going to be battling to win the championship in late October, November, that creates a little bit of an issue.
Hmm. Yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, there is kind of a precedence for this because as you mentioned, Charlotte did this last season, and look where they ended up. They ended up in the final. They got hot when it mattered. Um, Knoxville is one of those teams that they're good because defensively they are very good. They're tied for the least amount of goals allowed in the league with Forward Madison with 9 goals. So we kind of thought this season there was going to be a little bit more firepower than they've had, but they're quietly still getting it done. I mean, the 6 wins and 4 losses kind of hurt, especially in their last 5. They're 2 wins and 3 losses in their last 5. So kind of a weird stretch for them right now. But I don't think there's a whole lot of teams in the league this season that are going to get out into the playoffs unscathed. I think this is going to be a parity ridden season. I think the teams are closer than ever talent wise. And I think there are teams that know how to get it done and coaches that know how to get it done. And I mean, if you really press me, if I think Knoxville is one of those teams, I would have to say yes. I mean, they have the players, they have capable players, they have capable coaches, and I think it's just going to be one of those things where they need to get hot when it matters, exactly like what Charlotte did last season.
Mhm.
Flow under the radar because it doesn't matter. It does not matter at all if you finish in 8th place or you finish in 1st place. If you get hot in the playoffs, forget about it. It's over.
Yeah, you certainly hit the nail on the head when you said they have the players to do it. They still have the reigning goalkeeper of the year, Sean Lewis.
Mhm.
Um, he won it last year, right?
Believe so.
I thought it was him. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was him or if it was Austin Pack in Charlotte.
I mean, we
I
have so many good goalkeepers in this league. It's really hard to
yeah,
pick one, honestly.
I thought it was Sean Lewis. I'm pretty sure it was Sean Lewis.
It could have been.
Um, but I mean, Kelly's been on a tear there in the midfield,
Yeah.
uh, as well as Tequila up top. So I mean, they certainly have the players to do this. I mean, you could go through their entire roster and like, oh, yep, he's really good. Yep, he's really good.
Yeah.
Um, so they're certainly a team to watch out for as the season progresses. I want to go back to a point you made a few minutes ago when you were talking about how you disagreed with the league expanding their playoffs from 6 teams to 8 teams.
Hmm.
If you had looked at the situation in 2023, Tormenta missed out on the playoffs being the 7 seed behind Ford Madison by a single point.
Hmm.
If you look at the space between 8 and 9, which is where this year's playoff line is, there are 6 points separating One Knox and Lexington. But if you look at the today's standings, 8 and 9 are only separated by a single point, whereas 6 and 7 right now are also separated by a single point. This is a tight race.
Mhm.
I'd have to look back at last year's standings at this point in the season, but there's a case to be made that this is an even tighter race than last season.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I think that is what the league kind of maybe foresaw. Um, and I mean, obviously, the league sees who gets transferred in and out, and I think they probably saw that the talent levels are rising significantly in League One. I mean, and it would have to if the plans that they have at least talked about were to come to fruition. You need those. You need the talent gap between these teams and the lower seeded teams in the division above to be similar, and I think they are. And I think we're going to continue to see this until it gets to a point where all of these teams are going to have, if they don't already, all of these teams are going to have championship caliber players on them, top to bottom, and you're going to see a lot more parity coming in and out of the league. I think we're significantly closer to that. I think, as you mentioned, the table being this tight, it points to that. So I think the league definitely knew what they were doing and had this plan all along, because that's how you grow a league as well. So I think it's going to be exciting. I wasn't big on it before, but also that might be the person who hates taking his wallet out to buy extra tickets to playoff matches talking. But I will happily do it if Union Omaha is in the playoffs, and I think most people would agree with that as well. So
Yeah. Okay, so that begs the question then. And this goes in line with a question we have here from Smith Video Production. They ask, won't there be 18 teams next year? When I look at the expansion list, we have 12 teams now plus 6 coming. So if we have 18 teams, if we're accepting every single expansion team that's rumored to be, coming into the league next season,
mhm.
if we're looking at 75% of the teams in the league making the playoffs, applying that to next season, do you really think that we're going to have 13, 14 teams make the playoffs instead of 8?
That's really tough. It's really tough to tell. I don't think so. I think they'll probably stick with. I mean, if we have 20 teams, you might see the top 10 get in. Um, I feel like about half the league for the American viewer, like obviously playoffs are a big thing in American sports. They are the biggest driving force for ticket sales, merch sales, stuff like that. So um, I think to the smart business person looking at this would say, yeah, I mean, the more playoff games you get, the better. But you also have to look at it with the grain of salt that, like, okay, should everybody make the playoff? No, not everybody should make the playoff. If you are sitting at the bottom of the table with 5 points and you end the season at the bottom of the table with 8 points, should you go and have a playoff match against a team that has 76 points? Like, no, no, that doesn't make sense. But you do need the playoff to cater to an American fandom. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just the fact of the matter of the situation. And if teams get people to show out for the playoffs, anybody that has bought playoff tickets to USL match know that they are significantly more expensive than regular season tickets to the same team that you saw in June that you're seeing in October or November for some reason, are 30% more because it's the playoffs. But the league also needs that to grow, and the teams need that. We talk about it all the time. These margins for these teams are razor thin. So if they get 6,000 people in the gates and they charge an extra $30 a head. Whoever's good at math can do that, but I mean that's revenue in, and that's what the teams need. So you'll probably see it expand with 18 teams. You probably will get, I would say, probably closer to even 10 with 18 teams. So it's a byproduct of playing this sport in America where the playoffs have such a big cultural impact.
Yeah. And kind of going back to something you said, I think I would pay 30% more for tickets to watch October's 2023 Union Omaha versus June of last year.
Would be a good one.
Just an argument for the ownership of Union Omaha from Midseason.
Yeah, there you go.
But let me expand it this way then, because if you're saying we expand to maybe 10 playoff spots next season,
I think 10 with 18 to 20 teams seems about right, personally.
do you expand it even more in 26, knowing that there's even more teams coming in?
Ah,
And at that point, do you go into conferences? When do you go to conferences?
well, I think when you have enough teams to make it logistically possible for the schedule to be balanced with two conferences.
What if,
But it also takes away some of your more interesting playoff matches. Granted, it's going to help a lot with travel, like opposing fans traveling to matches, especially that late in the season around, holiday time and stuff. People are already making travel plans in October and November to go Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff. That's already a tough time to travel. So if you can eliminate Central Valley Fuego going up and playing in Portland, Maine on a playoff night, that's only good for the league. I think they just need logistically the perfect amount of teams. I'm sure they have that number. I'm sure it's an arbitrary number that says when we hit X number of teams, then we split east west. There we go. What that number is, I don't know. I haven't given that as much thought as I probably should. But in that
yeah,
case, I mean, who knows?
you answered my next question because I was going to ask you if we should even have conferences in League One. Because if
Yeah,
you also throw in the fact that Jägermeister Cup is a highly regionalized cup competition, you have these regionalized teams going at each other so many times throughout the season. Fans are eventually going to get a little tired of playing against those same teams over and over and would want to see more matchups from teams outside of those groups.
yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. I had never thought about that, but yeah, I think fan wear out would be a real thing. Um, I mean, it happens now. That like Omaha plays Chattanooga on Saturday. I'm like, God, we playing Chattanooga again. It feels like we play Chattanooga every other week at this point. Um, and I don't know why. I don't think we play them that often. I think we're just a little front loaded with them this season. But God, for some reason, I've like looked at the schedule and saw Chattanooga and was just like, again.
Yeah.
Granted, that probably is because Omaha has a bit of an issue with getting injured when they play Chattanooga because their brand of soccer is, to their credit, very aggressive, but in a not dangerously aggressive, just very physical play.
Yeah. Those are the ones where the players really, really love and appreciate their recovery day.
Good on them, though. I mean, it usually works for them.
And those ice baths are very full after the match. I can tell you that. Well, let's keep this ball rolling with regular season because
Yep.
we still have a whole second half of the regular season ahead of us.
Ooh.
And we still have to figure out who the top 8 are going to be. But before we get into any of that, what has been your biggest surprise of the regular season, and what has been your most predictable aspect of the regular season?
How do I word this without coming off like a homer?
Oh, I knew.
The least surprising thing is if you look at the top 4 teams in the league, you see Omaha, Greenville, Madison, and Charlotte. Not surprised in the least that those are the 4 best teams halfway through the season. I think those are the 4 best teams in the league in general. And I think this happens quite a bit with League One. It feels like a broken record. And if I sound too much like a homer, I'm sorry. But seeing Union Omaha at the top should not be a surprise for anybody at this point. They've been around long enough that it makes sense. But also, the other 3 teams that I mentioned before, also good year in and year out, should not be any surprise. The biggest surprise, and Smith Video Production definitely saying as well, is Lexington not fulfilling people's expectations like they would and I would have thought in the preseason. And yeah, although I was not banging Lexington as the undisputed champion at the beginning of the season, I didn't even think they would finish in first. I did not foresee them being in 11th place either. That is the biggest shocker. But I feel like that one's a little bit too easy. And a shocker for me personally, because I had this team up at, I think, 3 or 4 in my preseason rankings, but Chattanooga sitting down at 8th right now. I really thought coming into the season they had the pieces in their roster to be fighting for first place at this point in the season. For some reason, the cogs have not completely fit yet. They're not by any stretch out of any playoff implications, obviously, because we spoke on it earlier. It's going to be close. But yeah, for me, those are the 2 biggest ones, 2 biggest shockers, for sure. And I don't need to hide my homerism, says Luke.
Yeah, you don't need to. No, don't do that. Take this time to even remind people of your podcast.
Oh, yeah. The one that I still need to do a lot more work on and just haven't. Yeah. I'll eventually get back to doing Owl In, where you'll just hear me rant and rave about Union Omaha stuff. But yeah, it's working. It's going along. It's working.
Good. Yeah, everybody head over to that YouTube channel and support Brian in his solo venture over there. Because he's gonna throw some good stuff into those episodes.
Yeah, I might just get drunk and rant. That might be what it is from now on. But
good, man.
If anybody listens to it, then it's not for nothing, I guess.
All right, so individual accolades here. Golden Boot. Who are we looking at? Right now, we have Lyle McKinnon in first, Obregon in second, and then we have 3 players tied in third place. Mensa out of Chattanooga, Pedro Dolabella in Omaha, and then Sebastian Vivas from Tormenta.
Who do I think is going to end the season with it? Yeah. Is that what you're looking for? Or am I looking, because I mean, if we're going Golden Boot just based on the numbers right now, I mean, Lyle McKinnon obviously gets it. Who do I think is going to finish with it? I do like Lyle McKinnon, but I feel like Obregon Jr. is going to be the one that ultimately gets it at the end of the season. I think this race is going to be super tight because I think you just go down this list. I'm not going to do it live, but if you go and look at the list, the usual suspects are the top ones in in the league, obviously. But yeah, there's just something about Obregon Jr. that the way he plays, he's not a traditional goal poaching kind of guy. I mean, he does do that, and he is one of those guys that can, but I feel like he positions himself on the pitch very well. I feel like he puts himself in those right positions and is able to make those split second decisions that I don't think anybody else in the field right now can make them as well as he can.
Charlotte certainly has the pieces to set him up for success, but at the same time, so does Greenville.
They do.
And Greenville only plays, I feel like it's such an, I can't say that. um, yes. So
Careful. Careful.
I'm being very careful.
Employee of a team here.
um, yeah. So, uh, I mean, Lime is certainly a player that is a huge threat for plenty of teams in the league. Um, but you're saying that Charlotte is going to set Obregon up for more opportunities?
I think so. Yeah. I think athletically here too. I think Obregon Jr. is quicker than McKinnon is, just based on the eye. I have no stats to back this up, as per usual. But it just feels like he is quicker and gets to his spot a little bit quicker than McKinnon does. And I feel like McKinnon is a little bit more of a guy who has been in the right place at the right times this season. And I don't know if that's going to end up happening the whole rest of the way through. Sorry, man.
I know that League One has only been around since 2019, but for the 20th year in a row, you and I are sitting here clamoring for a skills challenge. And hearing you say that Obregon could beat McKinnon in a race, I want to see that race.
Oh, dude. Can you imagine? Yes, that I think everybody is impressed about that one, CJ.
Just do like a schoolyard race. Just like draw a line of like with chalk on a blacktop and just let
Oh
them
man,
go.
no, you put your hand on the fence, you run to the brick wall, and
Yes.
touch it, come back, and the first one to touch the fence wins.
Yeah, those are the rules.
Hey,
I
I
like
don't
that.
make the rules.
Yeah.
I don't make them. The kids on the playground make them. So
Yep. God, we need a skills challenge so bad. That'd be awesome.
so since you brought up the skills challenge, all right, I brought this up at one point, and I think it would be really cool if USL League One put together an all league team, right? At the end of the season, they take their all league first team, and the all league first team plays a friendly match against whoever wins the league.
And what if players on the league team are on the championship team?
Then you bring up the second team
You bring the
players
players
in
off the
that
bench.
position. Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously you'd have like a third team that could be your bench if the second team was in.
That'd be nice.
I would pay money for that.
I,
Even if
I
even if my team was not in it and it was in, I don't know, whatever is the most difficult place in League 1 to get to. Even if it was there, I would go.
Smith Video Production coming in saying, why not a Super Cup between Championship and League One? I fully support that one too.
I'm down. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Because I think
Oh,
the USL 1 team and the USLC team are not that far apart talent wise.
There it is.
I don't think the best of the best and the best of the best are that far away.
There's your quote, folks. There it is right there.
I think more often than not, the C team would win, yes. But I feel like it would surprise you. I feel like there have been teams in the 6 years that League One has been around where they would probably, honestly, the USL 1 team would probably win more often than not if you take into account what teams you're talking about. I feel like 21 Union Omaha beats most championship caliber teams. Again, homer pick on that one, but and you know what? North Texas in 2019, I think 2019 North Texas beats a lot of USLC sides right now. And honestly, quite a few MLS squads too.
So the championship team from 21 was Phoenix Rising. That one would have been a fun one to watch.
Mm-hmm.
2019 would have been North Texas against Pittsburgh Riverhounds. That would have been a really fun
Ooh,
one to
that'd
watch
be a
too.
good one. God, that 19 North Texas team was a good team,
Yeah.
dude.
I mean, even last season, having NCFC go up against Pittsburgh. Oh man, I
That'd
would
be a
pay
good one.
money for that one.
See,
Oh.
got to do it. We're just gonna clip this and send it to the league office and be like, dude, here, listen. This is what we need to do. We've solved it for you.
Mr. President Lee O'Neill. Watch this.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, we have had him on the podcast before. You can go back and listen to that. A lot of good insight.
Yep. It was rapid fire, but we still got some good stuff out of him.
Yeah, we only got half an hour with him because he's a very, very busy man. But nonetheless, it's only a 30-minute interview then. So, I mean, if you're short on time too, there you go.
Speaking of short on time, we are at 90 minutes. We are in extra time. So we need to go quick. We need to determine our regular season champion. Brian, give us the goods.
I mean, do you really have to ask me who I think is winning the regular season title this year? Because you don't have to ask me this, and you didn't, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think Union Omaha and Forward Madison play each other in the final, and I think Union Omaha beats them.
Oh my gosh. That would be amazing. Okay. Last team in, first team out.
Last team in is going to be Chattanooga. And the first team out, the Richmond Kickers.
Ooh. Okay.
And it's going to be close, like 1 to 2 points close.
So do you think the current top 8 is going to make the playoffs?
Yes. I think the top 8 teams that are the top 8 teams now are going to be the top 8 in the playoffs. The seeding is going to change. It will change, but the 8 teams that are here will be here at the end of the season.
All right. There you have it. Second half predictions from Brian right there.
They're probably wrong. I picked Omaha and Madison in the final last year too, but I'm just trying to will it into existence.
All right. Well, that is another episode of League One on the Rocks. Look, we are going to have a lot more shows coming your way. We have so much to talk about, and we're just getting started. Second half of the season, there's so much drama ahead. There's so many things to discuss, storylines, recent results, interviews, all that kind of stuff. Like, we have so much stuff to talk about. Brian, let me just get this going on air. Do you want to start doing get our power rankings started next week?
Oh yeah, we can do power rankings next week.
Okay.
I
All
like
right,
that.
there you have it. Return of our power rankings next week as well.
You guys will
So, all
never
right.
guess who I have in first place.
All right, my name is Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich, but I'm not. That is Brian. You can find him on Twitter at Mediocre Ace. We will be back next week with more League One talk. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of League One on the Rocks.
All right. Thanks, guys.